Einen wunderschönen guten Abend, herzlich willkommen. Schön, dass ihr da seid. Willkommen zu unserer Podiumsdiskussion. Welcome to a little panel discussion that we're going to have. We're going to use the microphones even though it's just a few people. It might look awkward, but we will tape it and it's helpful for taping whatever happens tonight. Yes.
Why?
Why?
Why helpful for taping things?
Because it's more loud.
What?
Whatever.
It's louder if we tape it?
It's louder if we use the microphones.
But why are we taping it?
Okay, we can't spend the next hour like this. Thank you, Shawn. Well, let me introduce to you who's here with me tonight. On the far left, we have the guest on the panel who came the furthest to be here just for this panel discussion. It's a person who teaches and plays at a company, Moose Theatre in Calgary, Canada. And he's also a teacher traveling around the world. It's Shawn Kinley. Shawn, you want to say something else about that?
I'm not sure why we're recording this.
Good. Next to Shawn, we have a woman who comes from the second farthest, actually, from Würzburg, Germany. She is in charge of the International Würzburg Improv Theatre Festival there, and also the artistic director of the group Der Kaktus, and it's Lena Försch. And now I'm confused about distances and stuff. I just try to say your names. We have a guest with us from Hamburg. He is part of the group Das Elbe vom Ei, who some of you might know, also an improvisation group in Hamburg. And he also has been involved in organizing the Improliga in Hamburg. And he loves it, but he also says, not always. So it's, now I hope to get it right, Tobi Aengstenheyster. Tobi Aengstenheyster.
That was a difficult part of the year.
Yes, the name. And now, right next to me is a person also from Hamburg. It's a person who has founded the Steife Brise and who is one of the artistic directors of the ensemble, who's also Ausrichten des Evening. So setting up that evening, it's Thorsten Brand. And my name is Nadine Antler, and I will be responsible to host this little panel discussion. It's an experiment, and what? Yeah. It's an experiment tonight. We'll try to set it up and see how long it's interesting for us, and if we get bored, then we go outside and have some drinks. Before I introduce to you the nice man to the right of me, I have a question to the audience, and the question is, who of you is an improviser themselves? Can I have a show of hands? So we have quite a few improvisers. Who of you has seen competitive improvisation before? Yes, any kind of competition on stage. It's almost everyone. Yes, and so this will be the topic of the evening. We'll talk about do we still need competition in improvisation, and we'll find out what every one of these people think about it. But before we get there, there's one more person that I haven't mentioned yet, and if you stay for the show, you will see much more of him. To the right, it's a wonderful musician of the Steife Brise, Peter Huber. I'm curious to see how many moments you find where you can play music in this. We'll see. No. Is everyone fine with understanding English? We can switch English-German also. Anyone who says English is fine?
Yeah.
Yes? Yeah, that will be the problem. We'll find out later. Wir können auch auf Deutsch und dann gucken wir, ob wir übersetzen. Cool? Okay.
Parlez-vous français?
No, I'm sorry. So my first question is, the big question that the panel discussion is having is, do we still need competition in improv theater? And it has started, well, the formats that we know today, very famous is Impro Match, started in the 70s in Canada, almost at the same time. Theatresports has started in Canada, but there's a lot of other formats. Some of you might know Super Scene, some might know Gorilla, some might know Maestro, some might know the Impro Slam. So there's competition all around, and the question is that still interesting, or are there more interesting formats now? Whoever wants to answer that.
I think not, because improv matches are very fun, especially for the players. The main problem I see when we did the Hamburg Impro League was that it's very repetitive. It's almost the same structures when you do these classic matches where two teams are fighting each other, and there's one judge who says, "Hey, audience, will you give this team 1.5 points or whatever?" So you always have the same system to get a winner or a loser, and even though the games are different, even though it's improv theater, it's very much the same. So I think for the audience it isn't that interesting as some. Fuck does English works.
You can also say it in German.
Ich sage jetzt einfach mal auf Deutsch. Ich glaube, dass Shows, die zusammengespielt werden von unterschiedlichen Teams, deutlich spannender dahingehend sind, was Synergien angeht. Also dass man halt eben neue Strukturen lernt, dass man neue Spiele lernt, dass man neue Energien lernt, Spiele und so weiter. Eher als wenn man sich gegenübersteht und sich bekämpfen muss. To fight.
Yeah. So you say it doesn't need competition anymore?
Not in. Nicht in der Form, nicht in der Größe. Just here and there a match is very fun, but something like a league or whole evenings every month about competition, I don't think that's necessary.
Yes.
It can be fun, but I don't think it's necessary.
Mm-hmm. Were you about to say something about this? I saw you.
Oh, I was actually listening to the translation, but ask the question again.
I said, do we still need competition in improvised theater?
No. In the same way, we don't need long form, we don't need short form, we don't need musical theater, we don't need any of the formats or any of the styles in improvisation, but we're better because of it. If we have a variety of structures, then we become an art form like dance. We have ballet, jazz, and hip-hop, and box dancing. We have all kinds of forms and formats. The danger, actually Thorsten and I were talking about this before the show, the danger is that any of the formats or forms or styles can be the death of improvisation. If you find that you're doing a script, if you find that you're doing the same thing and you're not inspired, there's a good chance that the content is getting in your way. You're in charge of the content. The packaging around it is something for the audience. If we can falsify, in a way, competitive improvisation in the way that they do for wrestling, you could have millions and millions and millions of people engaged because you're coming to their level. The masses around the world engage in a competition in life. It's just a natural thing. There's a danger in schools in North America that they're removing competition because it's such a bad thing. It's the safest place to teach competition because it happens every day in life, so why not use it? So in theater, Keith Johnstone's original approach was we have wrestling that engages British culture. In Canada, it was kind of the same. In South America, it's 10 times more with the luchadors, and it's a theater of the people. We know it's fake. We know them throwing themselves into the brick wall. There's an artistry to it that they're not actually doing it. We see the heroes fall and the villains rise, and they fight against each other. And this is all theater, and it engages the audience. It's not always the same. Sometimes we see a twist that we didn't expect. But it's up to us to make the content work in any form, in any format, and to learn from the styles so that we can become better. We're in an art form that's in its infancy. The fact that we still argue about what's right, what's wrong, what could be, what couldn't be, it's a bit of a lame thing that we're going to get over eventually. The fight of long form, short form has subsided, and now people aren't talking so much about which one is better, but which one do you enjoy more? And you can enjoy all and learn from all. And I think that's, for me, the important part of it.
Thank you. Lena, for you, since you're setting up the Würzburg Improvisation Festival, you are in charge of picking a lot of different formats every year that you want to show to the audience. Is it still interesting for you to set up competitive formats, and if so, why? And what makes you choose other formats?
Well, first off, our main goal in selecting the shows for the festival is that we have a good variety of different things. So we want to show the Würzburg audience and the participants of the festival that there is not just one way of improvising, but just like you said, there's many different forms of how to do that. So that's why we choose long form formats and crossovers and also competitive formats. And I think that it's important to distinguish between two things, because if we're talking about formats, I think competitive formats are needed and they're really valid, and I love choosing them. If we're talking about spirit, I think it's not very useful. If competition is the spirit of any sort of format, and I don't think you have to have a competition format like theater sports or match in order for people to not collaborate. So really, one thing is just the form, and then it's how you fill it. And what I think a competition format provides is that it engages the audience in a way that makes them passionate about what's happening on stage, and especially for the opening gala of the festival, where we have a big venue. It's great to get to move a crowd. It's 250 people, and they cheer for the players that they like. We do a maestro usually. So it means everybody competes against each other, and there's one maestro in the end that wins the competition. It's engaging. I love it.
Cool. Thank you. Well, you both were talking about competition is good to engage the audience. Shouldn't it be possible to engage the audience that much without the competition, just with good scene work?
And it happens. Yeah, I don't think it's one or the other. Why do we have the mics again? I don't think it's one or the other. It doesn't really matter. It's your choice of packaging, and if you can engage the audience with a romance, and you decided to package it as we do a romantic comedy, then that's your package. So it's just another style.
Thorsten, for you, you've been playing the Impro Slam for a long time now, and it's also a competition. What's interesting for you in playing a format that involves so much competing against each other?
Yeah, first of all, as we played Theatersports in the 19s, it was the first format we met, and the only format we used to invite each other in other groups, so that we have this kind of mixed and debates and discussion and places to talk with each others, like the festivals now. So in the 90s there are not this kind of behavior, no, that's not the word, you know what I mean. So, ja, also da war noch nicht die Art und Weise, sich auszutauschen in den Festivals. To exchange each other groups, so which your thoughts, with your attitudes you have. Yeah, the Impro Slam, you asked about the Impro Slam. So after we cut the Theatersport, so in the beginning of the 2000s, so I think 2005, 2006, we and the license to the Theatresports, we switch over to Impro Slam, and it's like it's a bit like the show Whose Line Is It Anyways, yeah. And so we try to make a little bit format that is like a competition now, but it's totally clear. So in the front of the show, so in front of the beginning, I told you will win, and everything was okay, and so we can freak out during this evening, and I give points and said, it was bad, it was better, and so on and so on. And yeah, it was a thing that runs very well, and it took the pressure away. So, and I think Theatresports is one of the formats, if you don't know how to play it, and it's a very difficult format, and in our younger years, we don't know that, so we play it, and it runs very good. Like Tobi said, we have a lot of joy, but we are, first of all, human beings, and with that pressure, you get into fear, and said, okay, I must win. I must win. So it's like Darth Vader coming to the dark side. And so you're not very involved in the game or in the improv, in the spirit. You have to play this format. And Impro Slam was a kind of new format that we took the pressure away and come in this joyful, playful feeling.
So there's a thing that has come up now a couple of times. It's the idea of it's nice to give the competition to the audience, but it's also really hard to deal with the competition that happens between the improvisers on stage sometimes. And I know it's fine. I was just reacting to it. So my question would be like, because we all talked about different formats, maybe you can say a little bit about the format that you're playing and how you deal with removing the competition in the format that you're playing. Because you already said like there was a time when you just agreed on the winner, and I wonder if it's betraying the competition for the audience.
Yes, but it's a show, so I'm an actor. So, and we act, it's, what a pity, and so it's like Theatersport, that I have to act, I think, oh no, it's, there's a horn, and I say, thank you for that, and it's always also a kind of acting to say, thank you, that I'm boring you, and that you protect me, I know, but it's feel awful now, so I have to spend a little bit of acting to do that.
But did you have the impression that the audience didn't care so much about the competition because there was no competition?
For the audience, there was a competition. So,
They decide before, but they don't tell the audience.
I
think that Nadine misunderstood.
I misunderstood.
Sorry, no. We decided.
Yes.
In the wardrobe.
Yes. How was it for everyone else? How do you deal with the competition between the improvisers?
Slight difference of opinion on that one. I think it has to be authentic. I want to win. I desperately want to win, and I don't care if I lose. I don't care if I lose. It's this really crazy balance. We were doing a class today, and we were practicing some failure, the horn being blown, you being kicked off stage because you're boring. And there was one authentic moment where a person looked, really? Huh. And they walked off, and we all laughed because it rang true. There's got to be a truth in it. And this is my problem with a lot of the work that you see around the world, is there's an authentic play and there's an inauthentic play. There's acting. Most improvisers are not good enough actors to pull it off. So you have to touch into the core feeling of how you feel. You get pissed off with how someone throws you off stage because you're boring. You show a little bit of that, and in the back of your head you're going, this means nothing. I'm in love with a beautiful person over here. I have a great career over here. I've got this over here. What the fuck is this all about? It means nothing, but I'll be angry with you. Carlos Castaneda wrote books in the 60s or 70s, and there's a phrase that he used called oh, and I don't remember the phrase. The idea is, you go into a movie, why do you cry? You don't fake cry. Why do you scream in horror? You don't fake scream. You do it knowing that this is all false, and that the movie is being shot, and there's cameras behind these people, and there's a script, and it's all bullshit. But you give into it fully. And then it's over and you walk away. On stage, it's the same thing. I give into it fully. I'm going to win. And when I don't, I go out and have beers with the people who beat me. And I go, next week I'm going to kick your ass. And I don't care if I do or not. When we play games, when we play certain games, we see authentic things rise up in performers in practice that they don't do on stage. And this is the practice that I think a lot of good competitive improvisation gives to us, is can you now master this feeling of being present within this authentic feeling, but also understanding I can hold this in perspective and I can share this with the audience.
I'm totally with you. So I only explained that we changed the Theatersport to ImproSlam because to took the pressure away, and this was our first idea to make it. Now we play ImproSlam still in the Imperial Theater, and it's totally different kind of who's winning the evening. So it's totally open and authentic, but it takes a long time to go away from this Theatersport pressure. It might be our own mistake to misunderstand it, but it was a little bit difficult on these days because the social media things and so on, and the videos and YouTube and what's going on. So, yeah, that you come over very, very temporarily. So that was in the 19th, so much away. The loose theaters, oh, to fly to Canada, it was okay, I'm away for forever. Maybe I come back, I don't know. So, and yeah, so we tried to put our own way. So teaching was not so well because most German teacher said, okay, I think I got a clue about this, but it was a clue, not really the Theatersport thing. And so we put the mistakes out there of the format, called it ImproSlam, create a new one, and now we had Theatersport since 3 years, 4 years with Nadine, and now there's a little bit of the idea. I think, oh, I'm an old improv player, but now Theatersport. Yet now I know this is the thought and the think and the spirit. Ah, yeah. So.
Yeah, and I would never fault any of the processes of anybody who goes through competition and hits the wall of, I don't like this doesn't feel good, I want to do something else. We are human, and this is kind of natural instincts to not like being told I'm wrong, not like failing. But this is the thing that I think hopefully we all get to the core of with good improvisation training and good improvisation practices, that we discover that the competition can be valid and not valid at the same time. We can play with it and use it for a strength and not for a detriment.
Yes, totally. The problem I see is that when you play very much competitive games like shows like we had in the 2 years of the Hamburg Impro League, it was like every week one match, and there was a list with points, and you know, okay, if I win this game, then I still need 3 points to beat the Steife Brise, and so we have to do the best games we had. Which games are they? And the games we choose, or we nearly choose, in the last second we just said, fuck it, let's do something fun. But in the preparation for the show, it would always, okay, this game was great in this show, this game was great in this show, who's playing? You three, okay, we can kick this game, we need this game. And it become more like a football game, where it doesn't matter who plays, but you know, and on this position, I know you are funny, and the crowd will love you, so you do exactly this, There's a game with someone who.
That's mute translator.
Yes, and I knew I'm the best for this game in our group because when the fat guy falls, everyone laughs. So I just fall. Everyone is laughing. We win the game and feel pretty bad about it. Not because the pressure that we used on stage, because that's cool. That's fun, and it's cool to be afraid of losing because it has a meaning. You can win it. You can be the best improv gamer in Hamburg, and yes, but when you're so into winning that you destroy the meaning of improvisation. So not just have fun, do something cool, do something creative, but been so focused on winning that it's not the sense of it all, and it's not fun after the show. And we feel pretty bad, and it was in the second league that we decided to talk to the players of the other matches and say, hey, let's fuck the league, let's do some cool show. What games have you? Here are our games. Let's try something to make one cool show, and it doesn't matter who wins. So we're pretending to have a competition. It was a competition because we didn't say you win. That was for the audience, but we stopped choosing games to win and to do a show together. And I think that's the best way for us, not for everybody, of course, to do competitions, that you build a nice, great show with fun for everyone, and in the end of it, there's a winner. There you go, drink some beer. So this is since 3 years, I think we do this like this, and it's fun, it's cool, it's creative, you have more space.
What I think is interesting about this is that I don't know if the audience knows that there are different origins for the formats. Like theater sports that you were talking about was created by Keith Johnstone. It's also your teacher, so you're trained that way also. And the league improvisation is, Keith Johnston's format is rooted in wrestling, and league improvisation is coming from hockey. Ice hockey, I think, or hockey. So even the idea behind it is different, and I think that also explains a little bit why different things happen on stage. Lena, you know both styles. You've been traveling in the German improvisation scene, and the improv match is very present there, but you also know theater sports. What's your observation?
Many observations. One observation is just structurally, the way I played match was different than the way I played theater sports, because in match, for instance, there are no challenges, so it's not like one team challenging the other, but there is one moderator who gives the challenges to the performers, and then they do the thing. And what I found in doing these matches, a lot of them over the course of the years, is that it wasn't so much about what was inspiring to the improvisers on stage, but it was more about, we haven't done that in a really long time, or this always works, or these sort of questions that came up, and there was a script that was being followed. So we have these 6 games, and that's going to be first half, and then we're going to do the second half, and it's going to be those 5 games. And what I like about theater sports, where the 2 teams are more responsible and they have to think about what they want to challenge, what they want to see what they want to perform, what they want to see the others perform, is that you work more towards what is actually fun for those specific individuals to do. And I'm not even sure if that's improv match's fault, because we could have done it differently. We weren't thinking of it, but I think it's just a development that happened, that theater sports, the original was tried to be made safer, and that's why you have scripts that you follow, and you neglect all the things that are in theater sports that is much more complex, that you need to actually be inspired.
Thank you.
I think if a format is failing you, if you're getting to the point where you're saying, oh, fuck this, which happens all over the world, of course, leave it. It's failing you in some way, or you're failing it and you haven't had the training to honor it in the way that it needs to be honored. Speaking from my experiences over the last 30 years in traveling to different groups, I feel like I'm lucky to be a bit of an ethnologist, a studier of the cultures of improvisation in different places. I find more people are pissed off with improperly played theatre sports in certain areas, and league in many places. There's rebellions constantly in the state that you've talked about, where people go, it's a handcuff, it holds us back, it makes me feel like we're doing the same scripts over and over again. I think a smart person knows when to drop what's not inspiring them, and finding what true improvisation is. I'm not arguing just for Keith Johnstone's format. The connection with Keith that I have, I also fight against Keith because I think it would be unfair for me to say Keith is a god. And I can argue against Maestro, for example, and say Maestro teaches a bad habit of being losing initiative because you have a director constantly throwing things at you. So you have to look at your formats and say, what do we need right now? And a certain competition might be what we need right now, and it might be the thing that destroys us right now. But at the core of it, remembering that the improvisation is the base of all that we do, and everything else is packaging around it. So in tonight's show, for example, earlier I was saying, the packaging is okay. It might be difficult to play around, but it's the improvisation that's important. And it's not just about doing a game on stage. Can you do a scene that the audience will remember for the next 3 decades? So really, sometimes I find the whole discussion about formats a bit moot. If it doesn't work, stop doing it. It's like the Dalai Lama was asked, what happens if science says, we've just proven Buddhism false, and here's the proof? The Dalai Lama said, I would change my beliefs. It makes sense. So with the work that we do, if it's not working, change your beliefs, find something that does work, and make sure that you're not diluting your thinking in removing risk and creating safety and saying, this feels good because it's safe. You don't want that. You want to improvise because it's dangerous. It's not traditional theater. It's much better. It's honest in a way that says now is the moment and danger is important, and my risk of being right and wrong is not important, but I do have to follow the edge of my abilities.
But can I just add to that? I think a lot of it is a matter of culture and a matter of community, because an individual can't do much about it, is what I find. If you find yourself in a community where failure is accepted, or more so seen as the only way to really move forward, then it's going to be much easier for you to play competitive formats the way they're supposed to, whatever that means, but you know what I mean. Whereas if you're in a community where, and it sounded a little bit like what you were saying, that it was actually really competitive in the sense that people were counting points, then it's going to be really hard for you to deal with failure. It's like with anywhere else. If you're in a company and you're taking a workshop on how to embrace your mistakes, but the people the CEOs are not living it and letting you fail and learn. It's really, there's no point. So I really think as a community we should have more like islands of communities that have a different culture, that have a culture of embracing failure and taking risks, being kind with one another, not trying to outsmart each other all the time. I think that's the way to go.
It's not simply, I think it's not just a matter of culture, and it's also a matter of being seen. When you have you have big improv groups like Steife Brise, everyone knows them, everyone loves them, and then you have Das L vom Ei, we're existing for 2 years in this first league, and no one knows us, so we wanted to be seen, and there were even smaller groups than us from far away, Bergedorf, we've never been heard before, and that was their chance to be seen. And I think it's just natural that they saw the chance to be seen in winning the games. When you beat the great Steife Brise, then you are something. So you work on it to beat them. That's in first place it's a good idea, but not to be too Steife Brise, we did it twice. Fuck yeah, I forgot what I wanted to say.
I think what you're describing is exactly a matter of culture. It's exactly that, because what you're saying is those people thought that by outsmarting someone or beating someone, they're gonna be liked, and I think it's exactly that. It's a culture in which we think that we have to prove ourselves constantly in order to count for something.
Yeah, yes, totally. The question is where the groups came from. Is it just we want to be loved, we want to have a greater audience, or is it we want to move on to do this for the living, so we need the great audience? Do you know the difference? Just emotional and rational.
Then you don't need competition. You need to work on your improvisation. And and you need to do things that are inspiring you, and not put them in comparison to something else in competition, because that's not useful. That doesn't feed a true improvisation mindset, in my belief. I've been through countless festivals, and I would say at least half of them, the winner didn't deserve the prize. The entire audience is behind second place. The smiling, giggling fools in the corner who are just happy to be there, and what they've done is making everybody go, oh my God, I'm in love with these people. Who won? I don't know. I want to go talk to these people. And so there's a magic to true improvisation versus the competition. When the competition gets in the way and becomes an aggressive side of things and not just the packaging. And in that state, definitely push competition aside and find your spirit and find your place in the improvisation world.
I don't know, maybe I tried to make a new perspective on this topic because if you see the format Theatersport and you create it, there's culture, there's a spirit in it. So, and I think it's important to learn this and to try to live this and bring this on stage. Yeah. So the value of this format. So, and if I feel comfortable with this and have joy and fun, play this, be authentic to the audience, then it works. So, and if I met another group, they have the same format and they have the same values with that, then it happened a great evening. What happens with the Impro League and with all the stuff we created in Germany was that every own group create his own value for this format, and then it crashed together and they said, oh yeah, it was kind of funny, see you next year. And this was the exchange we had. And I think we learn about a lot of this thing and try to create a new thing, or think okay, when we create a format we have all to trust this and be in the culture, live the culture for this format and say yes and not no because we have a better idea for this format and play it so and so. And this could be the reason why after 2 years Impro League in Hamburg there was not a little gap, it was a big gap to say, yeah, nice to know you.
Yeah,
2 times you win against the Steife Brise.
Culturally,
Funny.
I don't think it's such a unique thing in Germany. It's in Peru with their league improvisation. It's in Belgium, I think. Yeah. In a similar kind of state. So how we evolve as improvisers individually, you're evolving the same way as a Latin American or French man, Australian woman. We're all evolving the same way, from fighting to understand it, to find the inspiration. It's all the same, and groups do the same thing. Groups go through the same kind of process. Organizations that do competitive improvisation all go through the same process. The rebellion in league happens in the same time, in the same way, in every place. It's an amazing thing to watch. You can walk into a culture and then appear as the mind reader saying, in 2 years there will be a rebellion and there will be fighting in your groups. And they look at you and go, what? No, no, no. And then 2 years later they go, Shawn was a god. He predicted this. It's just natural behavior. We all go through the same thing. And I do believe that we all, in the rebellions of us as individuals or our groups, we all fall back into the same thing, good improvisation. I'm frustrated with this. I don't like competition of this. We're, at the core, good improvisers. We were born good improvisers, and we remember that. We know what that feels like. And we also know what feels wrong and goes against it. And eventually, we fight against that, and we go back to what's normal. It'll keep evolving, and I think it will all find its way back into a healthy state, but it takes time, and a lot of good organizations who have great business people fighting to keep the competition alive, the amount of money coming into the groups, and that works against the spirit of improvisation. So we have to allow for that fight and keep true to what we know is good about improvisation.
Thank you. That sounds almost like a good ending word. Is there any questions or comments from the audience? Anything anyone wants to add or ask or something? Doesn't look like it.
There's one. I sense it. I think it's over here. I think it's over here.
You're a mind reader, Shawn.
No, I saw someone go.
Okay, this is your last chance now. Speak.
There! It's you! I knew it! Sorry.
Yeah, you're very good. You're very good, Sam. So now maybe I can add something from the perspective of the audience.
Yes.
Because I belong more to the audience. I'm not an improviser, and I can say I like competition. And it doesn't matter for me whether it is predicted who will win, as long as I know anything about that. So for me, Impro Slam, like Thorsten and Steife Brise created, is a very, very good format, because you don't have the pressure, like you said, and the audience has the fun to be involved in a very, very special way. So because if you in the audience can have the feeling I can decide who will win, it's a very nice way to be involved. So for me, competition is good, but I can see all the reasons, especially what you said, Tobi. It's a fight of existing. So I think this is a very great format you established. So we have fun, everyone has fun, you don't have the pressure. I'd say go on with it.
It has changed, by the way. Now it's real competition. No, well, it's not set up anymore, at least. Okay, thank you. Anything else from the audience? Ooh, one more.
I was wondering, when the groups have developed and when they are able to go to act on the edge and are able to go for it and are able to be risky in this format, how would that look like? What difference would that make?
One side would be, when you think about the league, is that that you don't have the problem of repetition. In fact, not always the same games, because it's kind of a problem of the mindset of a league, that you have to win to get points to win the final prize. And when you break this system as far as you're not forced to always do or always show your chocolate side, I don't know if it exists in English, then you are able to create new things in between the competition. And the problem is, I don't think that the competition itself is the problem. The problem is the system of the league, or of a league. And yeah, that's the wheel we need to break.
My answer to your question is, anytime you experience an audience in tears 90%, or laughter in fits, that the people on stage and people in the audience they can't continue the show for 2.5 minutes like in Norway a few months ago. That's what you achieve, that moment of such authenticity that we, performers, audience, our partners, there's no difference. We're all in the same kind of experience that is so unreal and unlike anything else. And that happens in competitive improvisation, regular improvisation, any improvisation. It just gets back to the core and you forget the packaging and you become connected.
Does that answer your question? There's one more behind there.
If the competition is already predetermined, does that, in a way, are you lying to the audience? Is there a case of, let's just say the audience is witnessing the points going to a team that isn't really the best or isn't winning, then all of a sudden you're lying to the audience, and that's breaking that trust, breaking that connection that you have with the audience. Did you ever find that happening during competitions that were already predetermined?
Are you talking to Thorsten?
Thorsten, yeah.
In the 19th, we speak about the early days, you know, and if we played Theatresports or Improv match, there was no winner in front of the show created. So we said, okay, this is open, but the pressure that happens on stage, because you will win, you must win. So it was totally stupid. It was for us, yeah, a lack of evolution. I think that we took this Impro Slam format to say, okay, now I said you will win in the end of the show, but I try to make it so spannend, excited for the audience that nobody knows, and it's very tight, and yeah.
And it has been removed now. It has changed.
Now it's completely open, and now I'm in charge. So in the early days I was only the host and tried to be funny, and now I'm in charge. And after the evening, I always lose.
Thank you. So it's almost 8 o'clock.
Well, just a little add-on, because I played in this Improv Slam shows, and it happened that you told me you will win tonight, but I didn't. So there was always a change of mind during the show, so there was always a game at the game to relax the players. So
it's always we've heard that a lot tonight. It's always a big struggle of make the competition real for the audience, but also don't let it affect the performance on stage. We'll see in half an hour how this will work out tonight, because we will end this discussion in a few minutes, and then hopefully all come back here at 8:30, and we'll have a theatre sports show tonight. It's a format that was mentioned quite a bit, with an international cast that came together for this weekend to work on it. And yeah, we're very excited to see if a lot of these things that we just talked about will be watchable in that show. To end this discussion, I would be interested to hear a short statement, really just short, from all of you. What is a thing that you wish for improvisation in your culture, in your surroundings, or whatever, if your culture is the world? It doesn't matter if it's competitive or any kind of improvisation. What's a thing that you feel like, if it could only be changed a little bit like this, or go towards this direction? If you have anything?
Be open, less ego.
More seeing improvisation as a tool and not as a genre. So taking the work seriously, and still keeping this philosophy of embracing failure.
I think even when it's a competition game, the main thing for the audience have to be to create a great show and not be the winner. And when it's in the end of the show, when you are the winner, it's cool. But if not, if the show is great, it doesn't matter when you lose.
improvisation has died twice in history. When it was first recorded in the Italian-Roman era in Commedia dell'arte, and I've been looking at it recently, and there's a danger it could die again. When it becomes so strict and so rigid, in Commedia, two of the greatest improvisers wrote the book of how to do it, and people started to do it how it was supposed to be done, and it stopped being improvisation. So you're great improvisers. You start as a great improviser, learn from experienced people, learn by doing, and then forget that you know anything and start improvising again. Always forget what you know and learn to improvise, because the moment is important, not the history, not the lessons, and not the format. It's what you're doing now with the person you're doing with. It's like good sex.
That's a good word to end on. Well, thank you very much for coming, and thank you Thorsten, Tobi, Lena, Shawn for discussing with me, and thank you Peter for now playing some nice music to get everyone out of here.